Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea Lapomi, and this is the Downtown Roundtable. It's September 16th, 2014, and I'm here with my good friend Thom Lane. This is our second edition episode of the Downtown Roundtable. This is a one-on-one, and just so you guys know who I am, I run Feetish Parlor on the second floor of Emergency Arts, and Emergency Arts is a collective of wonderful business owners and artists, and the Beat Coffee House on the corner of Fremont and 6th Street in downtown Las Vegas. So, hi Thom, thanks for joining me today. How are you?
I'm fine, Andrea. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. Thom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I've lived in Las Vegas since 2006. I'm originally from Boston. Uh, I spent about 20 years of being a disc jockey playing records, so that dates me. Uh, and I also worked in comedy clubs, managing, and some of the people I work with now are successful, across the country. And I moved to Vegas in 2006, and I started doing videography, shooting videos of downtown in, I think, 2011 I started. And I was drawn to it because I love classic Las Vegas, and that's where all the uh, neon was, where the strip is all LED now. Downtown is classic with the neon, and I just started shooting stuff there. I had no idea what the downtown project was or anything that was going on. It was just that I was drawn to it, and then I found out more as I went along, and it's been really exciting, and I've been making little videos here and there, and
I
you're in
love your
one of them,
videos.
so we'll give that away.
I might be in two now. Um, I that's and so we met. It was shortly after I opened Feetish Spa Parlor, so that would have been 2 Februarys ago that I opened. So it was probably shortly after that we met. You were walking around Emergency Arts, exploring, probably working on a video of some sort. You had already made a video, I believe, about the Emergency Arts building. Um, and I know there was a lot of footage in there that featured the beat, and it was a really great video. So that's kind of how we met. You were exploring, I was there, I had just opened, and then we just started hanging out and chatting, and you worked on new projects, and I was excited about them. So tell me about some of the videos that you've worked on since we've met.
Well, let's talk about the few that I did before we met. The Beat Coffee House. Being from Boston, Cambridge area, I walked in there one day and I thought I was back in Harvard Square in the mid-'70s with the funky atmosphere, the vinyl 12-inch albums, uh, well, the coffee, the wood, the attitude, and people would bring their dogs in. And it was just this great old meeting place. And I had made a video of downtown, that first block of Fremont Street with all the neon. And then the next thing that came up was doing something on the beat. And then after that, I did something on the emergency arts. And I showed them to Jennifer, who runs the place. And she kind of liked them. And I said, if you want them, put them on your website, no charge. And she did. And as far as I know, they're still up there, although I think they're a little dated because there's so much change and activity that goes on downtown. So that kind of was my anchor to that little corner of the world that I felt like I had gone back in history to someplace I was really familiar with. And then when it came to meeting you, I had seen some video that you had done and posted for your Kickstarter campaign or your GoGo or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, it was Indiegogo. Yep, my first Indiegogo campaign.
And you were so sincerely enthusiastic about what you do and really projected this whole thing of, I'm really into this. This is important to me. I love doing this. And gosh, I was feeling the same way about what I was doing. And if only everybody could feel that way about whatever it is they're doing, I think we'd all be obviously much happier. So when I saw that, I thought, gee, I would like to shoot her because she's really real about the whole thing. And so I think I came up in your opening night, and we introduced ourselves to one another, and then later talked a bit. And I did a video for you, and you gave me a back rub, didn't you? Wasn't that the deal?
I gave you a facial, if
A
memory
facial.
serves.
And I fell asleep. It was so relaxing. I remember that I fell asleep, and when I woke up when it was done, I asked you, did I snore while I was asleep? And you assured me I didn't. And I felt much better about myself.
Aw.
So, yeah, I was just getting involved in what was going on downtown. I discovered there's the downtown project, and there's Tony Hsieh, and there's millions of dollars, and there's all these people who are 30 or 40 years younger than me doing stuff. And I got excited. It was just like when I first was a disc jockey, because the music was so great, and FM radio had just started, and it wasn't just top 40, but it was actually communicators playing album cuts, and it was totally new and different, and it was all exciting and so forth. And uh, I went and wasted the next 20 years of my life doing that. Uh, and what can I say? It was great at first, and then that initial wave of Hendrix and Joplin and the Doors and the Beatles and the Stones and all that cutting edge hippie acid rock, whatever you want to call it. Titles are usually misleading, but it played out, and then it became very commercialized, so that by 77, Fleetwood Mac was the music of the day. And by then I was back in Boston, and local college radio, I heard one guy playing the Sex Pistols and the Clash, and I knew that were, and the Ramones, and the Talking Heads, and American bands too. And I knew that it was the same thing as the 60s all over again. And so I got involved, and I got on the campus radio station, and from there, things just grew, and we had like a punk nightclub. I have to mention the name of the club because it's so great. It was called Spit. And, can you get any more punk than that? And then the local alternative newspaper started an FM alternative music channel, and I wound up working there, and did that till the late 80s. And the whole vibe of downtown and me making a new form of creativity just started around 2011 or so. And ask me a question. I ran out of stuff.
So I do want to talk more about your Boston spit punk rock DJ days, but before I forget, I want to touch on some of the other video projects that you've been working on over the last couple years, because they're really great. And just so you guys know, I'm going to post a link to Tom's YouTube channel in the text under this video, because I think there's something on there for everybody. So I know you put a lot of effort into a video about Container Park, and I watched you go through the whole process of, shooting when they broke ground, and then as the structures started to be installed, and cement blocks were being installed, and then there was a grand opening, and it was so great to watch your creative process while all these other people's dreams were coming true, and they were having spaces built so that they could start their dream businesses. You were recording the entire process, and I think that's something that a lot of people would be interested in seeing, but they haven't had the chance to ever see that. I know Container Park is very popular now, and could you tell us a little bit about that? Like how many months were you working on that video before you felt that it was complete?
Well, it took about 6 months. Strangely enough, when I first started, oops, are you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, my computer is just telling me to click on things. I had shot some video of the length of Fremont Street that included the hotel that was in the lot where the container park eventually wound up. So I had like before the beginning footage that I just had shot because I was shooting stuff. And when they started building that, I was looking for, well, what's the next thing I'm going to do? And since I had that link to start with, I got into it maybe a week or two after they had started leveling the ground and so forth. But I actually had pictures of them tearing down the hotel, so it just made sense. And so it took about 6 months, and it was almost you could make a new video every month. And one night I was at the Emergency Arts, and Jennifer Cornwaith was there, and she introduced me to her husband, Michael, who said that he would give me a tour inside the container park. And I was really excited by that. And you needed to wear a hard hat and a vest. And he took me around and I shot stuff there. And I realized all I need is a hard hat and a vest, and I have that. I really don't need Michael for anything. And well, I mean, he's running what, 12 businesses down there now. So I said, anyway, so after that, I just started going in there with my little hard hat and shooting stuff, and I would run into him there. And he never said anything like, "What are you doing here?" It was kind of like, I think he just acknowledged, oh, well, this guy's working on it. And I just kept staying on top of it and documenting it, and everything flowed together. And I met the chief architect one day, and it's such an unusual project. I don't think I've ever seen it done anywhere else. I think there's one in San Francisco and one in Brooklyn and one in maybe London. And the concept, I think, is catching on. But I was able to document the whole thing up to and including the dedication with the mayor cutting the ribbon. And the praying mantis is just so colorful with the stuff coming out of its eyes and shooting out of the antenna. And it really captures the spirit of where creativity is coming from now. And that's really kind of the Burning Man project, because out of Burning Man we got the Life Cube, and
Right,
so go
which
ahead.
is what you worked on, right? You worked on the Life Cube videos after, right
Yeah, after that,
after you
or
Container Park video, right?
or maybe I did a thing on the fall downtown. I didn't do the Life is Beautiful festival because I didn't want to spend all that money to go to it. And we worked our way around it by working you into a video where you just gave your impressions of being there, and then promoted the upcoming Halloween parade wearing your fangs and the blood dripping out of your mouth, which was
I should have worn them today. I wasn't thinking.
well, you can save them for Halloween. It's still in the future, but yeah, because they painted all those murals on the walls, and so I documented the murals and something about the Life is Beautiful festival, and Zappos had just moved in, and there were these two artists who had some sort of flying saucer thing for the kids to inspire kids, and that was over at the Learning Village, and so I did that one. You're always looking for what's the next exciting thing that's going on, and then I had heard of the Life Cube when Scott, the man behind it, uh, was at Learning Village one day, but it didn't make any sense to me. You know, they were going to build this thing, and artists were going to paint things, and then they were going to burn it. And it was, yeah, okay, that's nice. Everybody has a dream, and you're welcome to yours. And then one week I was downtown, and across from the Atomic Cafe in an abandoned parking lot, there was this structure, and that was the beginning of the Life Cube, and it took 6 weeks, and it was the most invigorating thing you could imagine, because they took an empty parking lot in a formerly scary part of town and filled it with art and community and energy and music and what is the downtown thing? People having collisions and meeting one another and sharing things. And so
Yeah.
once again, that gave me 6 weeks instead of 6 months, and I made a video basically covering each week until the final night when they set it on fire and there must have been thousands of people there. And it was so invigorating. And I just thought, what am I going to do after this? You know, what possible thing could they have that's going to, capture my imagination the way this has? And
Well, I have to say that, not to interrupt, but the last video of yours right before we signed on to Google Hangouts that I watched was part 6 of the Life Cube series that you did, and it was so good. You got all these great angles while it was burning, and then different stages where one of the walls would collapse, and then the last wall collapsed. And I love how at the end you go back the next morning, and it's just a couple seconds of footage right there, but you show the guy cleaning up,
yeah,
and I love it.
well, it didn't end with the fire. You know, it was still there the next day, and it was all ashes. And one solitary guy cleaning up wearing a John Lennon Imagine T-shirt. I didn't tell him to wear that. You know, it would just, but it just fit. It was so perfect. Shooting that last night when the fire was raging and standing on one side of the building where the wind was blowing and burning ashes were flying by you and so forth, you felt really a part of the whole thing. It was almost like, I don't want to say combat photography because, it's downtown Las Vegas, give me a break. But on the other hand, you've got hot embers flying by you, and it was just so exciting. And there were so many different ways of looking at it because everybody sees it with their own eyes, and you try and capture as many people responding to their vision of what they see going on. And hopefully, that's going to be. It was done 3 times at Burning Man, and Las Vegas was the first uh, city installation. And when I spoke to Scotty the last time, he was planning to take it to another city, and I could see him taking it around the world because it's such a unique and life-affirming thing. Basically, the premise, if you're not familiar with it, is people write out a card where they put down their wishes, their dreams, their hopes, and by writing it out, you kind of release it instead of having it stored up inside of you, and it has a better chance of actualizing. And then artists built these cubes and they decorated them, and they were put in schools and city hall and the inspiration and the beat and all around the city. And Scott went around to schools and Chamber of Commerce's and talked to everyone about it. And then people would fill out the cards, put them in the cube, and then all the cubes were collected and put in the tower in the parking lot. And then it was set in fire, so all the dreams and hopes and wishes were released into the universe. It's really pretty epic when you think of it.
It was like it. I think you took inspiration from it and you made a series of 6 videos that are fascinating to view, and there was a lot of excitement for those 6 weeks uh, in our neighborhood where people were really looking forward. They enjoyed the process, and then it definitely was like a tremendous community event when everybody went to the burn at the end. So um, the footage that you recorded of Container Park, the Life Cube process. I mean, I'm in awe of your vision, Thom, and I commend your dedication to it because you do these things purely out of interest and passion and a love of seeing creativity and things happening in a community, and that's always struck me as being a really special thing that you do. Um, and you're so supportive of other people's projects as well, which is fantastic. And I've personally, felt the love, and I've always appreciated that. So, from me and from other people, thanks for making a documentary, basically, an ongoing documentary of what's going on in the neighborhood. Um, as far as your next project goes, are you still?
Well,
Yeah.
when Burning Man or when the Life Cube went up, I think towards the end of March, my question is, well, what are they doing next that could fascinate me? What kind of massive undertaking is going on? And I really didn't find one. They're doing a grocery store, but that's pretty enclosed and encapsulated. Uh, the Life is Beautiful is hasn't happened yet. Uh, but I'm fascinated with the downtown area, and one of my friends, Caitlin, who is a muralist and who was the head artist of the Life Cube project, had a few post Life Cube parties at her home, and she lives over in the John S. Park historical neighborhood, which is just a few blocks over, really. It's on the entrance is Charleston and 8th Street. So it's just like 2 blocks in from the strip on Charleston. And you go into it, and if downtown captured the spirit of Las Vegas of the 50s and 60s with the neon and so forth. These are the houses of that period. And I went to a few parties there, and then it occurred to me, this excites me. This is really what I want to do. And so I've been working on that project now for a couple of weeks. And one of the buildings in there is called Heartland, and I think it's 36,000 square feet. And Elvis stayed there when he was appearing at the Intercontinental, which then became the Hilton and now is the Westgate. And the houses are all basically one story, uh, large ranches or small ranches, and uh, evidently the neighborhood is a historical neighborhood because one of the great colorful gambling characters who had properties downtown and built Vegas World, and Vegas World then became the Stratosphere, a fellow named Bob Stupak. And he was a gambler and he made money and took chances. And he lived in that neighborhood. And he decided that he was going to build a life-size replica of the Titanic in the neighborhood. And the neighbors kind of went, I don't think we want that. No, we must stop that. So they somehow banded together and formed the neighborhood association, which became recognized as a historical park in 1995, if my information is correct. And of course, Stupak went on to build the Stratosphere and then somehow lost the financing. And so somebody else owns the Stratosphere, but that's pretty much the Las Vegas of the 1990s, 2000s, where the big corporations come in and replace the Mavericks. And still, the houses, some of them are still big and spacious, and others are little bungalows, and some are funky, and some are under repair, and some are polished gems. And I'm still kind of working on that and hope to have it done in a couple of weeks. And you know, when you're finishing a project, you want to know what the next thing is going to be. And if you're a band and you finish the album, then you go on tour. And so, you know, there's a logical flow, but I'd have to make something up. I think I think they're going to do more murals downtown as in conjunction with Life is Beautiful. And I
Yeah, they
think
are.
that's fabulous. You know, just decorating the town. Uh, and so I'll probably be doing something along those lines. And no, I wouldn't be opposed to somebody saying, "Oh, we like your work. Why don't you come to work for us?" And actually making it a paying position of some sort, or because it's great just capturing images and having a vision, and then taking the pictures out of the camera and putting them in the computer and then shaping them and forming and colorizing them and putting the effects to them and moving them all around until and choosing music and maybe writing and recording a narration and telling a little story. And none of my stuff is over 2.5 minutes long because that's basically an attention span that today's people can deal with, and also because uh, the Beatles changed the world with 2.5 minute singles in the 60s, and so it can be done. And I was old enough to remember when it was being done. It was so exciting that I just kind of take that as a cue to say it quickly, jam it all together, and show it to people and say, in 3 minutes you can go do something else, but for 2.5 minutes, please watch this because I think you'll enjoy it.
I think you're so right on about that. Like keeping those little snippets about whether it's a historic neighborhood or um, an epic art project that's going like the highlights. You're so good at that, Tom. Like that's always struck me. There's nothing cheesy about your videos. You use um, in my opinion, just the right amount of editing and effects so that it's smooth. The pacing is wonderful. It flows organically, but there's also a little bit of grit to it that I like. It's very realistic. It's not overly polished, and it's not set to um, like I should how should I say like a manic dance club beat soundtrack. Um, and I've always appreciated your narration skills. I think if you ever have the opportunity to do any sort of voiceover work, take it because your pacing and just I don't even know what it is, your tone of voice and how you measure what you say and how you say it, because I know you've even written all of the narration that you recite. It's so spot on, and I like it, and it's like the old meets new kind of thing. You're using new technology, but you're tapping into something that's older than 2013 or 2014, and I love it. Um, okay, so that's a good segue. Let's go back to let's see, what time period would you say was the most influential in your life when you were a punk rock DJ back in the day? Like, can you tell us a little bit about maybe some memorable moments meeting certain artists that stayed with you over the years that have kind of shaped your life in notable ways?
Well, there were two periods. There was the early period in the 60s when I was really young, and all that British invasion music and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And there were only three TV stations or three networks and the public network. And there was no rock and roll on TV except I think it was NBC had a show called Hullabaloo. And they presented all sorts of contemporary rock and roll acts, and they had go-go dances in cages and so forth. And I got to meet and go out with one of the go-go dancers who was on TV Guide covers, and she was pretty much the symbol of everything that was going on. And she was with the Beatles, and she took me to a club once to see a band that was going to be a big hit, and it was the Young Rascals. And once she lived in New York. She took me to see Tiny Tim, and I couldn't understand him, but she assured me he was going to be massive. But there was that original period when all that commercial but non-commercial rock and roll occurred, and then it went all away, and it became very commercialized. I mean, Fleetwood Mac was a good band, but they weren't raw and intense and stripped down. And then things like the Ramones occurred. And I played as a nightclub disc jockey. I think I played the Ramones about 3 times. I was the DJ for that. And if anybody really wants to do some research, go check out the Plasmatics. That was Wendy O. And they'd blow up cars on stage. And they were really pretty radical. And I think the greatest night I ever had was early in his career when Prince was playing uh, a 1,700 person nightclub. And he was wearing a black leather top coat and a black G string. And The Dirty Minds was the album. And I had never felt anybody galvanize a room with sensuality as much as he did that night. That was really pretty erotic experience. And one night I got to introduce your favorite band, Depeche Mode, and that was
Yay!
that was kind of funny because you go downstairs and you're introduced to a bunch of guys who really don't care who you are, and they're all focused on doing their show, and I don't know, introducing bands in front of thousands of people is kind of a strange thing because they're not really there to see you, but you introduce yourself and you mention your radio station, and if they're listeners, and the station that we were on was the alternative rock radio station in Boston, so it was pretty passionate, and so they knew who you were, and they cheered for the station, I think, and we all were part of it together. Uh, and Boston was such a great music scene back in the late 70s, early 80s. There were hundreds of bands, and there were plenty of outlets for them to play at. And it was just such an exciting time to be alive because you were going to see a band and you knew the guys in the band, or there were women in the bands too. There was a all-female band called Bound and Gagged, and there were other bands. What's her name? Amy who went on to be Till Tuesday. Amy Mann. She was in the Young Snakes before she was in Till Tuesday, and th- there was just so much great music coming out of there, and it was just what you did. You were you, and you're going to the band, to the club, and you're going to the Rat, or you're going to Cantones, or you're going to Spit, or or the Paradise, or any of those clubs, and it wasn't like I'm going to see a band. It was just like, well, it's Thursday night, and I'm going to go see the Real Kids. I'm going to go see the Liars, and it was no big deal. It's just what you did, and you ran into all your friends. And now you look back at it and you go, oh my goodness, that was amazing. That's what I was doing with my life. But at the time you're doing it, it's just, you get up and you brush your teeth and you put on clean underwear and you go off and do whatever it is you do. And that's what we did. And I think that carries over into shooting video today in that, you know, say it quickly, say it with some intensity. Uh, I had friends when the Ramones first came out who laughed at them because they were so dumb and so limited in their musicality. But the truth was they had stripped away all the garbage and gotten back to the truth the way what the Stones and the Beatles had done 15 years earlier. So it all seem the same to me. I've fallen out of music since then, so I don't feel at all qualified to say anything about the local scene or the local music or the styles of music. Uh, I just know that when I was a disc jockey, you couldn't make $1 million a year the way the guys who play at Excess or whatever the name of it is. I'm not running it down. And I guess I'm only halfway jealous. But it was a different world.
Well,
It
maybe
was
you need a gimmick. You need a gimmick like a big mouse head or something like that.
yeah. That I mean I could tell stories of the debauchery that went on in the DJ booth, uh, and that sometimes I had I had a good friend. Her name was Billy Montgomery, and she finally wound up marrying Joe Perry. And so when they'd come to spit, she would have Joe hide in the DJ booth so he wouldn't be, besieged for autographs by all the punk rockers at Spit. And there was just we were having fun, I don't think I'm supposed to say what we were doing to have so much fun, but we were. You make it up.
We'll use our imagination.
Yeah, anybody who listens or watches this, you can imagine, and you're right in whatever it is you're imagining. It was a golden time, and I'm sure that people who are young and involved in the music scene now, hopefully, are having as much fun. I'm pointing a camera at things and trying to tell my little stories, and hopefully, you know, to be really honest, I would love to have somebody say, "Gee, that's really good. I like that. Please come and do stuff, and we'll get you some exposure and make lots of people happy by watching what you do."
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you do an amazing job, and I think you are so deserving of any type of freelance work that comes your way. So, um, let's see. Well, I have to give you credit here publicly, Thom Lane, for a couple things. The first one being the name the Downtown Roundtable was inspired by you because back in the day before I really got busy at Feetish Spa Parlor with appointments, I would go in and I would have the door open and I would be sitting, and yeah, I had appointments once in a while, but it takes a while for business to get going. So people, random friends of mine, or people I had never met before but were just drawn to the space would come by, and it's like as my friend John Miller says, it's like a space designed to seat 3 people, but it seats 8 asses comfortably. People would just fill the room, and we would just talk about whatever, and even newcomers felt that they were already friends with everybody in the room, and you were a big part of that. Like you're such a great conversationalist, and it was always a good time. So you told me one day that I was like the downtown Dorothy Parker, and that Feetish was like the Algonquin Round Table. So hats off to you. The reason that this video podcast even has a somewhat catchy name is because you're a genius. So thank you.
And
And
and and now you're so successful, I had to make an appointment to have a cup of coffee with you. And I still love you too.
well, it's like that. I mean, yeah, it's tougher to pop in nowadays because I am busier with appointments, and part of me feels bad about that because I really miss our visits and our chats with everybody. So that was like another big reason why I decided using Google Hangouts to do something like this was the perfect solution. Um, my second thing that I need to thank you for publicly here is, what I'm going to pull up right now.
Sandman.
It's It's Sandman. It's a doodle that Neil Gaiman drew for me and autographed, and I hang it on my bedroom wall. And it's like my prized possession. And the whole reason that I have this is because Thom Lane is amazing and a great friend and is extremely thoughtful and generous and apparently well connected. Thom, do you want to take like just 2 minutes to explain how I came to have a Neil Gaiman drawing on my wall?
Well, you had told me about how much you admired and enjoyed Neil Gaiman and Sandman and so forth. And I had been into comic books long ago, or what do we call them now? Novels,
Graphic
graphic
novels?
novels. But I really wasn't aware of his work. I was more like going back to the Jack Kirby days of Spider-Man and so forth. But nevertheless, I was in Boston, Cambridge last year, and I was having dinner in Harvard Square with the guy who I first heard playing punk rock on the MIT campus radio station. And he would have green hair one week and orange hair the next. And he went on to become the program director of WBCN, which was the major station in Boston, Rock Station. It was much bigger than the alternative rock station. Guy who was known as Oedipus. And Eddie and his wife, he went to Thailand and met this wonderful woman, and they got married. And as part of the ceremony, he rode in on an elephant and passed out envelopes with money to various relatives because I guess that's part of the Thai tradition. So anyway, I was having dinner Thanksgiving weekend in Cambridge in Harvard Square with Oedipus and Amy when Amanda Palmer and her husband Neil Gaiman came in. And I put Amanda first because she had a band in Boston called the Dresden Dolls, and it was just two people, and they were totally amazing. And I became kind of a fan of theirs, although I really didn't know her. She got her start posing as the 8-foot bride in Harvard Square, where she would dress up all in white in a bride's outfit and stand on a podium and be kind of, a frozen figure. And then if people approached her and gave her money, she talked to them. But anyway, so that's the Amanda Palmer thing. And so we're all eating dinner, and Amanda and Neil go over and they have dinner. And when Eddie and Amy and I are done with our dinner, we go over and make small talk. And Neil is just the nicest, most down-to-earth person you could imagine. And I told him that I had a good friend back in Las Vegas who just loved his work and owned his comic books, his graphic novels. And he said, if I had a paper napkin, I'd draw something for her. And I thought, well, I'll get a piece of paper and a pen. And I talked to the wait staff, and they got it for me. And I presented it to him, and I just said, if you want to do anything at all, she would love it and, be very pleased to have it. And no hesitation on his part. He volunteered, and he did it, and he did it quickly because it just flows. I guess when you're really creative, it just comes pouring out. I know as a disc jockey, I had those nights where I'd look at my fingers and go, oh my God, it's magic. It's not me, it's just flowing through. And so that's what you have. It's just something that he volunteered to do because he's, as far as I can tell, a very swell person. And he also did that ice bucket challenge. And once again, that was on YouTube. And he just comes across as really a great guy. And now they want to make movies of Sandman. And so I'm just glad that I could be able to bring that connection together.
I love it so much.
I hope I run into him again so I can tell him how happy he has made you. Well, look, we've killed about 50 minutes here, and we were only shooting for 30. So is there anything else you want to know about?
We talk a lot.
Where's the cat?
I guess
if the cat was here, I'd hold her up.
You got Tina there?
She's somewhere, but if she were right here, I'd put her on stage. But aside from that,
that's okay.
Can we get together for coffee next week?
Time. Next, go to Inspire and have coffee at Inspire News Cafe across the street from Emergency Arts on Fremont Street. Thom, thank you so much for chatting with me.
This was good. I didn't know. You said we were going to have a conversation, and I was thinking, well, I should organize points and make sure I cover this or that, or talk about how my last night as the manager at the Comedy Connection, Louis C.K. was was the middle, just working on material. But I didn't do that, so I didn't get to tell that story.
Well, now we have stuff to talk about next time we do a Google Hangout together. And yeah, I can't thank you enough. And everybody who was interested in what we were talking about, I'll put a link to Tom's YouTube channel in the text underneath this video. So check it out, and I'll include contact info for Tom too. So if anybody has any questions about anything, or they're interested in having him help them out with a project and do a little video for them, then it'll be easy to get in touch with Mr. Thom Lane, my good friend. And this is how it goes. We hang out in real life, and it flows just like this. We hang out on our webcams, and it's the same thing. So, Tom, thanks so much. I'll see you over coffee next week sometime.
Love you. Thank you.
Love you, Tom. Bye, everybody. Thanks.